All right. Hello, everybody. I hope you all are doing well. This is the NBA Tournament Strategy Show. I'm Bob226, aka Josiah, for those of you that don't know. On this show, we look back at last night and then we look at today's slate and we try to brainstorm a little bit on how we want to react to the slate. But, there's always a lot of questionable tags that shift things up. But we can go ahead and brainstorm that a little bit. And then on the pre-lock show, which is at 5:30 p.m. Eastern time, hopefully I don't get sick randomly today like yesterday. We then talk about leverage plays, core plays, how we're actually utilizing the domination station on that slate. So a lot of good things going on over here. Let's go ahead and jump into last night's slate. Not my best night, to be honest with you guys. Just A, I wasn't feeling great, but then B, a lot of there are a few sneaky plays I just wasn't on the right side of. Theo Maladin being one of them. He went off last night, so congrats to him. Isaiah Joe, the domination station gave us a good bit of naturally, so felt good about him. Scotty Barnes, we had a good bit of naturally, so I was over the field on him. Evan Mobley, I had exposure to, but I'm not quite certain if I had enough. But he was someone that I had exposure to. Nick Richards was the super chalk of the slate. For those of you that don't know, this is the $100,000 lineup that we're looking at. So like to test how things went on that side of things. PJ Washington was a leverage play, so that panned out. Tyus Jones was a core play for everyone, so that went well. Curry was someone, I don't recall if he was a leverage play, but I did increase exposure to him. So like I said, we got a lot of the calls that ended up in this line we weren't like completely off of, but definitely wish had more exposure to some of those high ceiling guys. But new day. It's gonna be a good one. Can feel it. It's gonna be crazy. That's for sure. Actually, Michael Ortiz. Good morning. Hope you're doing well, man. Waiting. I know, man. A little bit late, but we made it. It's all good. It's all good. We have a large slate on deck, so we don't have time to waste. So let's go ahead and jump into everything. Starting off, we have the Bucks against the Indiana Pacers. And guys, this is gonna be a trend here. But we have some pretty big names who are questionable. B-Dubs, what's up? Another DFS Army coach here. Said he didn't see that Curry did that well. Yeah, Curry crushed last night, man. He was fantastic. Yeah, okay, you had him on your sheet. Okay, so that might be why I remember seeing Curry. I wasn't sure if I had him or if I was looking at your sheet and you had him. But either way, I had Curry exposure, so at least that was on deck. Look forward to seeing how today's slate goes, man. But yeah, Giannis is healthy for the Bucks, so he's expected to play. He's listed as probable, so that's good. The spread is pretty wide for this game too. It's 11.5. Drew Holiday was not on the injury report, so we don't have to worry about that. Hopefully, Chris Middleton is questionable though. We know that has an impact. He's an impactful player, so automatically makes the Bucks guys a little bit more interesting if he ends up being out. Joe Ingles is also questionable. That kind of helps make some of the other guys a bit more viable. And then Jay Crowder is out, so that helps the Bucks be a bit more interesting as well. I'm really not going to have too much interest in the Bucks tonight, especially with Giannis being pretty chalky. If Chris Middleton ends up playing, if Chris Middleton ends up being out, then we already know that we're going to play more Giannis. We're going to play more Drew. They're just better plays when Chris Middleton's out. The matchup against the Pacers is a pretty soft one, so I'm not really worried about that. We would also see a boost for guys like Joe Ingles, who I feel better about with Jay Crowder being out. Pat Connaughton even see the boost, but his minutes are still a little bit volatile, so we need to kind of see what we do from a projection standpoint there. And Javion Carter has also seen an increase in usage, but I'm not really trying to go there unless Drew Holiday is out. So quite a few interesting pieces, but we'll be good to go there. Gustavo said thoughts on DeMar threes. No, I don't have any thoughts on, if you're talking about like prop betting, not really my thing, unfortunately. But we do have fantastic content for that on the channel, so do look at that. Thomas Dye, good to see you, man. There will be a pre-lock show today, I promise. As long as I don't get a random stomach bug like I did yesterday, but we'll be good to go today. All right. So yeah, the Bucks aren't interesting right now, but probably will be pretty viable on this slate later. The spread is one of the widest on the slate, so that's kind of concerning. But again, if Chris Middleton's out, I'm not overly concerned about that. For the Pacers, we already have some important news that Tyrese Halliburton's out. But the thing that would really make me excited about playing these Pacers tonight is if we get the news that Miles Turner is going to be out. Right now, he's listed as questionable, but if he's out, then we see guys like Isaiah Jackson and Jalen Smith be much more viable on this slate than they are currently with Miles Turner being healthy. Outside of that, everyone's priced pretty appropriately. And I think the guys that are in decent spots are getting decent ownership already. At least like when it comes to Benedict Mathurin, like he's usually the guy who leads the team in usage when Halliburton's out, even more so if Halliburton and Turner are out. So he's really the main guy that kind of caught my attention. We've also seen Jordan Nora have some strong performances here as well. And both are seeing some ownership. I have some interest, but I don't love the matchup against the Bucks, and I'm not certain how much run they would see in a potential blowout. So it's more like that I'm interested in them if Turner ends up being out and if Chris Middleton's out, because hopefully that helps this game stay a little bit closer so I can trust them a little bit more. So nothing stands out as of right now, but definitely that game has some potential. Next up, we have a game that I feel like is on the slate every freaking day. But we have the Miami Heat against the Brooklyn Nets. The Knicks. And so for the Heat, Jimmy Butler is currently listed as TBD. So him playing will be pretty massive for me. Like if he plays, I'm not interested in this team. If he doesn't play, then I am interested. We've seen Jimmy Butler smash in this matchup quite a few times already this season. So he's viable for that reason alone. But to be honest, I still doubt I get there. Just because I don't love the matchup. And again, I don't love the total, but Jimmy Butler does tend to perform well in closer, tough matchups. So do with that information what you will. Looks like Tyler Hero's looking like he's popping a good bit. With Kyle Lowry unlikely to play, that does benefit him some, but at least as of right now, Hero's not a guy that I want to be over 20% of by much on this slate. I think there'll be better plays personally, especially if Jimmy Butler plays. If he's out, then yeah, load up on Hero. That's totally fine. For the Knicks, we have Jalen Brunson listed as questionable. We know how impactful that is. I'm not going to forget about Quentin Grimes this time. If Brunson ends up being out, then we know to play the guards here. Absolutely no concerns with that. If he plays, I don't have much interest in this team. We've seen Julius Randle do well in this spot before, but I'll only take a shot on him as just kind of like a tournament flyer play, focusing on low ownership. Let's see what the sim model thinks about Randall tonight. It's okay with them. They likes him just as much as like Kawhi Leonard. So, I mean, he's not standing out too much, but viable play at low ownership, in my opinion. Next up, we have the Rockets. You guys know I don't have much love for this team, especially when everyone's pretty much healthy, which they are tonight. Matchup against the Nets isn't as soft as it used to be earlier this season, and so I doubt I'm going to force exposure to this team tonight. Just none of them stand out for me too much. I'm not going to X them out of my player pool. I'm fine having some exposure, but I'm not going to force it. We'll let the domination station do its thing here. Per usual, the team that looks more interesting is whoever's facing off against the Rockets, which tonight are the Nets. The Nets, unfortunately, are pretty healthy right now. Royce O'Neal was not on the injury report. Seth Curry looks like he's going to play. Edmund Sumner's questionable. That kind of matters a little bit, but doesn't move the needle for me too much. The thing that really just stands out here is that everyone's priced pretty appropriately. We're getting like no one's in the 8K range, and they're in a fantastic matchup with decent usage and solid minute floors. And so I'm comfortable having exposure to Bridges, Dinwiddie, Claxton, and Cam Johnson tonight. I'm less confident in guys like Royce O'Neal and Dorian Finney-Smith, who are more so like your streaky shooters. Like if their shots falling, they do well, but more often than not, they just don't do enough for you. So I like the Nets. If Cam Johnson's really going to be that low owned, he's on my radar as a leverage play. Comfortable having around like 15 to 20% of him. So we'll just kind of keep an eye out on that. Next up, we have the Mavericks, everyone's favorite team to deal with on a slate. Uh, Oddly enough, Doncic and Irving aren't questionable for what feels like the first time in forever. Maxi Kleber is questionable, so that does have an impact on some of the bigs. But still, tough matchup against the Sixers tonight if their starters play. So I don't really love this spot for the Mavericks. If some of the Sixers stars don't play, I'm more open to taking shots on a low-owned Luka or Kyrie Irving, but I'm really just hoping that the Sixers stars do play, so I don't have to worry about that because this Mavericks team is a hot mess from a DFS standpoint, in my opinion. Like we've seen, like a lot of their guys have ceiling upside, but they're just not consistent with it outside of Luka. So it's a bit more of like a dart throw play, in my opinion. Thanks, Thomas. Yeah, I feel so much better today. I don't know what happened. Like I was feeling great all day until like 4:30, and then I randomly just felt really bad in my stomach. But feel great now, which is all that really matters. But appreciate you, man. For the Sixers, like I said, Joel Embiid is questionable and James Harden is questionable. Two gigantic names for this team. If either one ends up being ruled out, it dramatically changes the landscape of this slate. We saw it just a few days ago, and hopefully we don't see it again today. But with NBA DFS, you just have to be ready to react to the news when it happens. And so we'll be ready for that on the pre-lock show, and we'll go a little bit deeper into the what ifs on the show too. Thankfully, these games are pretty early, so hopefully we at least have this stuff by lock, but some of the questionable tags in the later games are a bit more concerning for me, to be honest. For the Lakers, we have LeBron James being listed as questionable is probably the biggest thing for me here. I think most people are expecting him to play tonight. He played on Sunday, played close to 30 minutes, so I think everyone's kind of expecting him to play here, but he is questionable, which means we kind of have to talk about that. If he is out, then of course Anthony Davis becomes a really good play. I honestly have interest in Anthony Davis, even with LeBron James coming back. The matchup on paper isn't fantastic, but good bigs can do well against Vucevic, and so at 3% ownership, Anthony Davis is on my radar. I wish it was a little bit cheaper. The price tag is scaring me a little bit, but he's one of those guys that stand out a little bit for me tonight. Um, but of course, even better if LBJ is out. For the Bulls, we have Alex Caruso listed as questionable per usual. Javonte Green's questionable. You guys know I don't love this Bulls team when they're healthy. I don't really play DeRozan very often. I don't really play Zach LaVine very often. I know Zach LaVine had a pretty good game last time out, but Vucevic got kicked out of the game, and so that had a pretty big impact on LaVine and DeRozan's performance. From a usage standpoint, Vucevic should not get kicked out of the game today, I hope. And I like the spot for him. We've been playing bigs against the Lakers very often at 7% ownership. Vucevic, per usual, is a pretty easy leverage play for me. And once again, I don't like to set things in stone before the pre-lock show, but I can almost guarantee Vucevic will be a leverage play for me once again. What's up, Dave? Good to see you, man. Appreciate you, man. Again, seeing you always helps remind me. Don't forget to like and subscribe, guys. Honestly, I really appreciate the likes from yesterday. We got a lot, and so that was really good to see. If you guys could, don't forget to like. It helps performance and things of that sort. And subscribe too, because we have a lot of really good content on the channel, and subscribing is free, unlike becoming a VIP member, where if you're a VIP member, you do get access to the Discord and the website and the optimizer and all that stuff. But at least subscribing is free if you just like to watch the videos and stuff. Thanks, man. All right, guys. When it comes to the Pistons, they're facing off against the Thunder tonight. Let's see. The Pistons have the regular guys out for them. No one new is really out, so everyone's priced pretty efficiently, in my opinion. This is a nice soft matchup against the Thunder. The Pistons are guys that I'm okay with just mixing and matching exposure to. No one stands out for me too much as of right now. I just think that they're in general in a good spot. We've seen Ivy have strong performances recently. Bagley has had some ceiling performances. I do think Bagley could be interesting. We've been able to play bigs against this Thunder team with success, but Still have some trust issues around him. Preferably, when I run the domination station, I'll have like somewhere between 5 and 10% exposure to guys like Ivy and Bagley and Duran even. But no one's standing out enough for me to really want to force exposure to them. So ideally, we don't have to do that. What's up, 1600 highlights? Yeah, for me, when I say a leverage play, thank you for asking, because I forget sometimes new people watch, but a leverage play for me is someone that I'm going to force exposure to. So like if Ivy was a leverage play for me, I would automatically have like a 15 or 16% min on him to get leverage over the field by being double whatever the projected ownership is. So those are leverage plays for me, but they can be different for everybody or mean different things for everyone. Because you can have leverage on a lot of players, but for me, like a leverage is just like someone I'm gonna force being double over the field on. So yeah, the Pistons are fine. I'm just probably not gonna force exposure to them unless someone starts to really pop out for me as I do more research. For the Thunder, SGA is listed as TBD, which is always fun. It's weird. Isaiah Joe made a ton of sense yesterday, especially with Lindy Waters being out. We've been on the Isaiah Joe train really since the beginning, I think. We've seen how volatile he can be. So if SGA is out and Isaiah Joe is popular, I am leaning towards going under on him if Waters plays, because Waters does see a decent amount of minutes, and I think that can impact Isaiah Joe as well. Would be totally fine going back to Giddey and Williams, though, if SGA ends up being out. If SGA plays, he's in a fantastic spot tonight. 7% ownership's a little low. I know the sim model's not the biggest fan of SGA, but he would be on my radar as a potential leverage play as well. Let's double check. Let me make sure I'm not lying. Sim model, yeah, it's not the biggest fan of SGA. And what I look at here is always just the 8x column. Like, what's their likelihood of hitting 8x their value? And really just kind of seeing any percentage here is better than nothing. But it's more, yeah, there's a lot that goes into that. Oh, fun. Good. We got that news. Thanks, IMAX. Markkanen was just ruled out. Oh, I love getting stuff live on the show. No, that's actually true though. I'd much rather have it now than like get it much later today. I'm just double checking. Yeah, he's out. Nice, good. Let's keep getting early news. Buddy Hield is out too. So Buddy Hield getting ruled out does dramatically increase. Not dramatically. That's being a little dramatic. But it does increase my interest in guys like Mathurin, Nimbard, even like McConnell, with Halliburton being out. So we'll see how things update, but they are a bit more viable than we talked about previously. We have a lot of games to still get through, so we gotta get it moving, and we'll get to the Jazz game soon. But yeah, the Thunder are only really interesting to me if SGA's out. If he plays, then I have some interest in a low-owned SGA. But there's quite a few of those kind of plays. We just have to see who actually plays tonight. Like, that's the biggest question. It's like, what guys are actually going to play? Because there's just too many questionable tags, in my opinion, for now. Clippers. Let's see. What are we working with? Everyone's pretty much healthy outside of Norman Powell, who's questionable. If he plays tonight, that does impact some of the more role players on this team. Marcus Morris is out. Hasn't changed too much for me. Paul George has been out for a little bit and will continue to be. Kawhi Leonard is really the main guy who's on my radar at this point at 10,000 at only 6% ownership. Matchup against the Grizzlies is fine, so I'm willing to, like, if he stays this low owned and we don't get any other crazy news, I feel very comfortable around like a 15% ownership on Kawhi Leonard and forcing him as a leverage play. But again, we just have to see how the rest of the slate plays out. But I like this spot for him at low ownership. I don't really like anyone else here. Let's see what the sim model thinks about Russell Westbrook at 7,700. Any interest? He's okay. He likes Dinwiddie more, and I don't disagree with that. All right. So yeah, Kawhi Leonard, and moving on. The Grizzlies are interesting. Looks like John Morant's picking up a little bit of ownership. It looks like he's on track to play. As long as he starts, I'm cool with it. If he doesn't start, then I'll do exactly what I've done the previous times and just increase my exposure to Jaren Jackson Jr. If he plays, I play John Morant. If he doesn't play, I play Jaren Jackson Jr. Either way, I'm going to have some exposure here and go from there. Those are really the only two guys that I'm excited about. I don't think there's anything else that's really moving the needle for me too much. Of course, if John Morant ends up not playing, we can go back to playing some of the guys we've been playing. Luke Kennard had a good game last time out. I'm okay with a little bit of Bane, Jackson, Jones, all those guys. But we'll just have to wait and see what happens. For the Jazz, we did get the news that Lauri Markkanen's going to be out. Looks like Simone Fontecchio is available to play, so that does kind of limit some of the value that we could have gotten from this game. And then Jordan Clarkson's been out for a while. So the things that matter the most here are that the guys who see the highest increase in usage when Markkanen is out are your Olynyk, your Ochai Agbaji, your Walker Kesslers. And they're all in a fantastic matchup against the Spurs. So I'm going to have exposure to them. We don't know how chalky they'll be yet. If I had to guess, I think all three will be pretty chalky. So hopefully that's not the case. We'll see once ownership updates because we just got that news in. But if they're not getting a lot of ownership, then I'll easily be around 20% on all of them. But I like those plays. I think it's a good spot for them. Spread's still pretty close too, which is good to see. Anyone else? I think Fontecchio playing makes some of the weird, like Juan Toscano kind of plays less viable, in my opinion. Don't need to take shots on guys like Azubiki or Damian Jones here. I really kind of want to stick with the starters. THT, if he's extremely low owned, I'm okay taking a shot on, but doesn't feel super necessary, but he's in a good spot, so I'm not going to try and avoid him just because I'm starting to get a little bit frustrated with him. All right. For the Spurs, we have big injury news here that we already got. Keldon Johnson's out, Devin Vassell's out, Jeremy Sochan's out. This is a little bit of an interesting spot because the guys who lead the team in usage are Devontae Graham when those guys are out, or Devontae Graham, Trey Jones, Doug McDermott. Devontae Graham and Doug McDermott typically don't start here, especially assuming like Romeo Langford's going to play and if he starts. So Devontae Graham, I have some slight interest in, but I prefer taking shots on Trey Jones since he starts. I like Zach Collins a lot tonight with Sochan, Keldon Johnson out. We've done this play before, and it went pretty well, if I'm recalling correctly. I don't like playing KBD, Keita Bates-Diop, when Romeo Langford plays, so I'm just going to stick to that. I'm fine having exposure, but I won't have more than 20%. If Doug McDermott stays pretty low owned, I'll take like a 5% flyer on him. I don't feel like I need Devontae Graham tonight since he's not starting and Branham and Trey Jones are playing. But I do still want a little bit of exposure just in case he, goes balls to the wall here. Especially if he starts. If he starts, that would be, interest level goes up a lot. But if he doesn't start, then I'm not super passionate about him. All right, we're moving. We're making progress. All right, next up we have the Timberwolves, who are just a team I don't like when they're healthy. Now they're completely healthy with Karl Anthony Towns returning as well. We have Anthony Edwards listed as probable, Katz listed as probable, Taurean Prince is questionable, Jalen Noel is questionable. We saw Edwards come back last time, and he just wasn't looking that great, especially when Karl Anthony Towns is out there. Just don't love the spot. Rudy Gobert is super low owned, but again, with Karl Anthony Towns returning, I'm just less interested in him. If you want to take a shot on someone, I'm okay with a low owned Rudy Gobert. But I also don't love the matchup against the Suns either. So there's just a lot going here. I do think the sim model probably likes Anthony Edwards because it's always obsessed with him. Okay, it does like him a little bit, but not as much as Ja, which again I can agree with if Ja Morant starts. So yeah, don't love this team very much. For the Suns, Kevin Durant is in. So him playing, of course, has a Pretty big impact on Devin Booker, Chris Paul, DeAndre Ayton. They all see a decrease in usage. Um, it's weird though, because I remember when Kevin Durant joined the team, Devin Booker still had some really strong performances and made it into the Nuts lineup. So sometimes, usage doesn't mean everything, but it's hard for me to really make a case for Devin Booker tonight in a matchup that's not fantastic against the Timberwolves, who are now healthy. Um, I feel like the sim model does still like Devin Booker though. Yeah. And so just for the sake of that and just kind of remembering some of the upside, I'll probably have like a 5% min on Devin Booker to be over the field on him, but don't want so much where it's going to ruin me if he has a bad night, because don't feel like it's extremely likely, but we'll trust the sim on this one. And I know it still likes DeAndre Ayton too, but I probably won't follow it on that just because there's other bigs I like more so on this slate, like Zach Collins. All right, last game. We have the Kings against the Trailblazers, and the Kings are in a fantastic spot against a really bad Portland Trailblazers team tonight. The spread is the largest spread on the slate. And because the Trailblazers aren't playing anyone who's really any good anymore, so they're just kind of throwing the towel in. And kind of for that reason, I don't see this game staying that close. Especially with like Fox already getting ownership. He's the one I feel the most comfortable with. I'm fine having exposure to Fox tonight if the domination station gives it to me naturally, but I won't have more than 20%. Sabonis again is fine against Eubanks, who we know is just a really bad defensive big. But again, like I don't think this game stays close, and so I wouldn't want more than like 10% of him. Out here, when we look at more of like the streaky shooter guys, when everyone's healthy, I just don't have a lean here. I'm always fine like taking a shot on Hoyter and Barnes, but I can't find a great reason to do it tonight, unfortunately. I do plan on getting exposure to this game through the Portland Trailblazers, since they're missing so many guys. Anthony Simons is out, Jeremy Grant's out, Nurkic is out. All of their previous starters, basically outside of Thibault, are out. Watford's doubtful, Cam Reddish is doubtful, Damian Lillard is out. I think all of the super chalk will be from this game, and I'm totally okay with absolutely all of it. The Kings play zero defense. We saw how great Keon Johnson did last time out. Even if he doesn't start, he's still a fine play. Drew Eubanks, one of the chalkiest bigs on the slate, fantastic play. Nasir Little hurt our feelings a little bit last time, but he's still in a fantastic spot, so I'm not going to avoid him. Shaedon Sharpe, I need to just kind of compare him to some of the other guards on this slate. I think this is a good spot for him, and I want some exposure, but he's priced pretty efficiently, and so I just need to make sure that it's worth having exposure to him alongside all the other guards who are in solid spots tonight. And then Matisse Thybulle, totally fine having exposure to him. I think this is a good spot. Like I say with him all the time, if he does anything, then he makes the Nuts lineup. Similar story, and he's one of the lower owned Portland Trailblazers as well, and so I'm comfortable with that too. We'll have more Trailblazers players showing up here soon once we kind of get more information on what's happening here, but I plan on having exposure to all these guys, to be honest. Sharpe, Little, Johnson, Eubanks, not really Walker as of right now, unless I see something later. Matisse Thybulle, and I'll even have a min on Ryan Arshidakano if anything. Like I'll have like a 3% min on him just in case he sees a little bit more run. But if we get more guard value, then I won't feel like I need to do that. So we'll just kind of wait and see there. But love that game. Solid slate. We need a lot of information to come through before we really know what's happening. But, look forward to seeing what happens on the pre-lock show later today. Thank you all for tuning in and sticking it out with me. But I look forward to seeing you all later. And if not later, I'll see you tomorrow. Have a good one, guys. Peace out. Bye.